Over the years, have you been involved in any other fundraising activities, or experienced in any of those places attempts to raise money?
Well, the kind of lot of a parish priest is a strange one in that we kind of need to be a bit sort of jack of all trades, I would say. Right. Part of our role really is a bit like being CEO of a charity, and thankfully in a church like this I've got lots of volunteer church officers who help with that. An essential part of being a parish and trying to minister to the community of a parish is fundraising. When people are fairly new to the church, so perhaps within the first year of them being here, so they've kind of got to know us, they kind of get to know what we're doing, but then we explain to them, of course, we do all these things. People on the whole are quite pleased that we're doing them and get involved in them in ways that they can, but they don't always realise that we can only do them through people's donations, that they're not being paid for from somewhere else.
You're almost describing a sort of lifelong process of having to raise money.
Well, I think really money is mission. Money shouldn't be a dirty word for us. We can't do the things we want to do on the whole unless we have lots of different ways of our life being nourished and resourced. And one of the ways that we're nourished and resourced is by people's money helps keep things going. If we were to say, where would we like to get to in terms of our financial life? What would be wonderful is if we were, if our congregation was able to grow in size, and also if people were able to offer as much as they can to support the life of the church, for extra things.
So when you talk about extra things, I'm hearing you say if you did succeed in getting more money, and presumably the focus here is to try and encourage the congregation and other people to give more, you'd be spending that money on new activities. Is that the case? Is that what you're saying?
There would be other ways that we could develop our building. We could make our building much more sustainable. We've been doing a lot of work as part of our loving creation priority. And there's so much that we would really like to do to our building to help to reduce our carbon footprint, for instance. Now we can gradually do that, but it would be wonderful if we could do that a bit more speedily. But a lot of what is holding us up is the cost of that, really. I mean, if we were to have, for instance, so if thinking about what would we do, wouldn't it be wonderful to have somebody who was employed to spend their time applying for grants, that we could do a lot of that more speedily. It's the kind of work that, on the whole, us and our volunteers just never really have the time to get to. We are just starting to do some work on making the church much more accessible, and that's going to be involved having level access for people to come into the church and to make it feel much safer with glass doors. We're going to have a door out onto the garden. Now, we're lucky enough to be able to get that started. We've got planning permission for it now. And we've got various stages that we hope will come later, for instance, having accessible toilets and then helping to create some of the spaces which those toilets will take up. It's great to have a car park, which is excellent in terms of our marketability of the hall, but it is rather a hard, quite blunt looking car park. We would love to soften it, we would love to green it, we would love it to be a much more welcoming environment. At the moment we can't really get much beyond patching up holes in the car park. It would be great if we could get those going earlier, which will require us to have the funds to be able to do that. We already do quite a lot of work with older people in the community. We've been focusing on that much more. So very recently we've started a new group called Forget Me Not, which is for people who struggle with their memories, with dementia and other things. Also, we have a older people's action group who meet in our hall, so we're really developing our connections with them. But wouldn't it be wonderful if we had an older people's project coordinator, somebody who actually, that their role was to help develop that. Also, I think I and my colleagues in the ministry team do a really good job of supporting much of the administration in our church, because we've tried to cut down the cost of administration as we can, because we'd rather use the money on other things. But wouldn't it be great if we had a part-time fundraiser who worked for us all the time, for instance, who could help to really develop in a very sustainable way of being able to grow our funds.
Right. So it's about maintenance and development of the buildings, it's about people to take on new responsibilities, and it's about giving what you feel to be a fair contribution, the right contribution, the full contribution for yourself.
And why I think that's important, having a full-time priest, is I suppose, I mean, apart from my spiritual role, so leading services and being as available as possible for the community, having a ministry team of 6 or so people, and also a wider team of volunteers who are involved in our various mission here in the church and in the community, it's really important, I think, to have someone, as it were, who's a point of coordination and a point of leadership in that. Almost like a sort of knot in the net, that if it wasn't there, somehow it potentially it would all kind of fall apart a bit. And the church struggles to pay all the costs that having a full-time parish priest brings. We've tried to increase it, but it is quite a challenge. But that probably is the main cost. We are really lucky to be a church that the diocese seems to really feel is a good place to nurture future clergy. So we have been part of a pastoral assistant scheme now for 12 years, and pastoral assistants tend to be young women and men who come and spend a year or 2 years with us. And on the whole, they're people who are thinking, God is calling to be a priest. They want to test that out, really. And also we're a training parish, which means that a curate, who's somebody who's finished their training at seminary or at theological college, and they come and spend 3 years in a parish working alongside a priest, really learning what's entailed in running a parish for themselves. And they tend to leave us and then go and lead in a parish somewhere else in the diocese or elsewhere. And so that makes it I think that makes it a more vibrant, exciting community, because pastoral assistants and curates are kind of living their faith quite publicly. They've been up for the challenge. They feel God's calling them to do something very different with their lives, and they're doing it. And people become very involved in them, in their journey. And there's something really great and exciting about that. And that encourages other people to be thinking about their own faith journeys. So I think that's something which we can offer, which is important and is good. As I mentioned before, we've been doing a lot of work around loving creation. The reason that is important, I think, is not only is it important because everybody should be, I believe, everybody should be doing as much as they possibly can to help to reverse the current climate crisis. And to do things to help it. But also, I think it's very important for people of faith to think, why is it important from the aspect of my faith that I should be doing this? It's not only because I'm a citizen of the world, but we would say as Christians, we believe something very fundamentally about creation. We believe something about how we live in creation reflects what we believe about God, and what we believe that belief in God should have as an effect in our lives. And so we are not only trying to help people to really think about that and allow that to help form their lives, but also to give them clues and ways that they might try and do that at home as well.
I'm just thinking about, if I was somebody thinking about, well, do I want to give a bit more than I already do and so on, I'd like to hear a bit more about not so much the projects or activities that the money will go towards, which you've very nicely talked about, but how the church is changing itself. What can I expect over the next 2, 3, 4 years that will change about the church generally?
Perhaps if I can answer that by saying the sort of church that I hope that people encounter when they come here, and also some of the things that I hope that we might be able to develop to make that even better. Find this as a place of discovery of God, and I think finding a place of discovery of God particularly through prayer and contemplation. I think this is a church where silence is respected. Silence is a place where we really believe that God resides, and many of our services are led in a contemplative way, which is a form of worship and a form of encounter with God, I think, which is really sought after, many people are looking for. I think many people struggle to have the relationship with the more formal institutional church than people did in the past. But there's no lack of thirst and search for God. And we need to really listen to that. And I would like to think, therefore, that anyone who wanted to be part of our church life would find a way in, whatever their interests are, whatever they're looking for, that there would be a place for them here.
Fabulous.
Well, we seek to be an open and diverse community. At a time when in the Church of England there has been quite a public and quite a difficult conversation about sexuality, about same-sex relationships in particular. And we are a church that very openly says that everybody is welcome here, and we particularly want people from the LGBTQ plus community to feel welcome here. And so we have, and I feel that we're living in a time when we can't just assume people will think that. That has to be called out and spoken about. And we've been trying to do that more over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. And so I hope people encounter this as a church where anyone who wants to find a home, I hope, would find a home here. Of a piece of work of really just asking people to consider, if they feel they are able to, what sort of church now that we want to be part of. Because we are coming to a point now when we're going to be renewing our mission action plan, which is like a roadmap. It's a set of priorities that a church chooses to commit itself to over a period of about 3 or 4 years, and it really just helps to retain focus. And so we're going to go through a process of thinking about that again, of thinking about what we're doing now that we want to keep to. Is there anything we want to change? Perhaps anything new that we want to introduce? And encouraging people to think, well, how can I contribute to that? What ways can I be part of that? We want them to bring with them their enthusiasm, their commitment, their time as much as they've got, but their gifts and their kind of unique reflection of God's presence in the world. We want them to bring that with them and be prepared to share that with us as much as possible, as much as they want to. And because we believe as Christians that not only do we serve God and grow closer to God through our prayer and worship, although that's important, through our encounter with Scripture, and that's definitely important, and in a church like ours, through our participation in the sacraments, although certainly that's important. But also we encounter Christ in each other. and therefore being part of the community and trying to serve one another in the community, which can be anything from encouraging somebody with a smile to perhaps taking on a commitment which is about shopping for somebody every week, or giving them a lift to church, or even doing something even more time-consuming and committed than that. That is a way that God is being served, Christ is being served.
So it sounds as though you have this vision of creating a sort of vibrant community in a sense, so that people can live and support each other, and would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And a place which, being part of that community, adds a real quality to people's lives, and that they feel that a fundamental part of who they are is being part of this community.
That's something. I mean, are there any last words or thoughts you'd want to leave people with?
I think I'd want to say, again, a huge thank you to everybody who supports us, and just to say what a huge privilege it is for us as the church to serve in a community like this, and that we really look forward to welcoming as many people as we can into the church. The church is open all the time in daylight hours pretty much, and anyone's welcome to come and be part of it in whatever way they'd like to.